At our annual product keynote, the golden boy, my wife, the CEO, had just beat me to the stage. He was there to announce the core technology one had spent 7 years of my life developing. On stage, Julian Croft spoke with an easy charisma, the words flowing from his mouth, describing the breakthrough that had cost me countless sleepless nights and endless failed experiments. I shot to my feet, a mix of shock and fury boiling in my gut. This is my work. Chloe, my wife, who had always been my biggest champion, didn't back me up. Instead, her face was a cold mask. Ethan, sit down. Unless you have proof. Julian, meanwhile, put on a master class in faux humility, dabbing at his eyes. Ethan, I know you're a founding member of the team, but how could you try to steal the credit from a newcomer like me? It's shameless. That's when I realized. I pulled out my phone to access the cloud drive, my heart pounding. Everything was gone. Every file, every line of code, every data log from Project Chimera deleted. Later, I was stripped of my year-end bonus and placed on indefinite suspension. I became a cautionary tale, a laughingstock. Julian, on the other hand, was showered with flowers, applause, and the glory that should have been mine. He gave an emotional speech, promising that his technology would propel the company to unprecedented heights. The room erupted in a standing ovation. I was the only one who remained seated, a cold smirk playing on my lips. They had no idea. The technology was incomplete. It was riddled with bugs that needed to be patched. In the best-case scenario, their production line would crash. In the worst, it would cause catastrophic, irreversible losses. As the conference room emptied, I overheard 2 junior engineers talking in hushed tones. That new CTO, Julian Croft, is a genius. This new core tech is going to double our output. Seriously, the guy's the real deal. Not like some people who just talk a big game and steal other people's ideas. I glanced in their direction. The one who had just spoken shot me a nasty look. What are you looking at, you piece of trash? I just smiled, not saying a word. They didn't know that once the tech was deployed, it required a manual system override from me within 72 hours. Without it, the entire production line would grind to a halt. I was genuinely curious to see how the real deal Julian Croft was going to handle that. I grabbed my jacket and was heading for the door when 2 figures blocked my path. My wife, Chloe Reed, and the man she'd spent a fortune to lure back from a competitor, her new chief technology officer, Julian Croft. The same 2 people who, not 30 minutes earlier, had performed a perfectly choreographed heist of my life's work. Before I could speak, Julian grabbed my hand, his face a picture of faint apology. Ethan, buddy, I'm so sorry. I really didn't mean to announce your technology first. He leaned inconspiratorially, but Chloe gave the order. What was I supposed to do? You're not mad at me, are you? He was apologizing, but his eyes were gleaming with a challenger's fire. Look said it all. I stole it. What are you going to do about it? Seeing my silence, Chloe dropped the gentle facade she'd maintained for years. Her voice was ice. That's right. It was my decision, and I'm the one who deleted the files from your computer. I stared at her, stunned that she wasn't even bothering to lie anymore. This was it. The cards were on the table. She met my gaze without flinching. Don't look at me like that, Ethan. You're a brilliant engineer, but you're just that, an engineer. Julian understands the market. He knows how to sell. In his hands, this technology will take the company further than you ever could. Her tone was patronizing, as if she were explaining a simple, necessary business decision. I couldn't help but let out a bitter laugh. And what's to stop me from suing you both into the ground? Chloe smiled, a calm, calculated expression. Sue me. I've already spoken with our lawyers. The project was developed using company resources on company time in a facility provided by the company. The intellectual property therefore legally belongs to Nexus Innovations. I have every right to decide who manages it. A chill went through me. 7 years ago when I started this project, Chloe had generously offered me lab space and a blank check for resources. I thought she was supporting my dream. I never realized she was laying a trap, claiming ownership of my work from day one, so that's all it was. My voice trembled. Our entire relationship was it just about getting your hands on my tech? She paused for a moment, considering it. I wouldn't say that, she said, her tone dispassionate. You're reliable, a hard worker. You could do the work of 3 people, and you handled all the chores at home. You were a very suitable person to marry. Every word was a compliment, yet devoid of a single shred of emotion. 7 years of sharing a bed, a life, and it was all a transaction. Not love, just utility. My heart felt like it had turned to ash. A flicker of something, maybe pity, crossed her face. But don't worry, I'm not a monster, she said as if offering a scrap from the table. Julian and I have already discussed it. He'll be the face of the project, the CTO in name, but you'll still lead the technical team. She paused for effect. We can offer you a salary of, say, $5,000 a month. How does that sound? I looked at her truly shocked. She stole my work, my legacy, and now she wanted me to stay on as her glorified mechanic. The ruthless, cold-blooded capitalist persona fit her perfectly. Julian, however, looked annoyed. He pulled Chloe aside, whispering, "Chloe, the tech is finished. What do we even need him for? Why not just fire him?" He shot me a suspicious glare. "You don't still have feelings for him, do you?" Chloe gave a placating smile. "Don't be silly. Ethan's been with the company for years. Firing him would mean a severance package of over 100 grand. It's cheaper to keep him on a small salary. Who knows, he might be useful for something." Julian's face relaxed into a satisfied smirk. "You always think of everything." They weren't even trying to hide it anymore, discussing my fate as if I were a piece of office equipment. A deep, penetrating cold settled over me like I'd been plunged into an icy lake. I couldn't understand what I had ever done to deserve such venom. After a long moment, I summoned what little strength I had left. "You don't have to worry about severance," I said, my voice. "I quit." A flash of genuine surprise, then delight lit up Chloe's eyes. "You're really resigning?" Without waiting for an answer, she found a pen and a piece of paper and thrust them at me. "Here, write your resignation letter. I'll sign it right now." She was practically vibrating with eagerness, terrified I might change my mind. I managed a tight, humorless smile and wrote out my resignation. The moment the pen lifted, Chloe snatched the paper and scribbled her signature. She handed it back with a triumphant grin. "There, you resigned voluntarily, Ethan. No severance required. HR will be in touch to handle your exit." The irony was crushing. I remembered when she was starting the company how she had practically begged me, "Ethan, you have the talent, the vision. My startup needs you. Please help me." To help her, I turned down a six-figure offer from a major tech firm. To get her funding, I endured countless steak dinners and late-night drinks to woo investors, working until I was sick. When the company was on the verge of bankruptcy, down $5 million, I liquidated my savings and sold my condo to cover the losses. When she complained about low productivity, I worked for 7 years without a break to create this one-of-a-kind core technology. And now that she had it, she was casting me aside like a piece of trash. Julian's voice cut through my thoughts. "Chloe, what about his company shares? He still has an 18% stake." His eyes were alight with greed. Chloe's focus snapped back to me. "He's right. Since you're leaving anyway, you should transfer your shares to Julian." She thought for a second. "Tell you what, we don't want to be unfair. I'll give you $10,000 for them." $10,000? I raised an eyebrow. Thanks to my work, Nix's Innovations had a valuation north of $20 million. My shares were worth conservatively over $3 million, and she was offering me 10 grand. Julian sneered, "Don't be greedy, Ethan. $10,000 will let you live comfortably in Austin for a little while. Besides," he added, his voice dropping into a threat, "you're in no position to negotiate." Looking at their ugly, triumphant faces, I couldn't stop the words from coming out. "You know what? Keep the shares. Their gift." Julian's face split into a massive grin. "You said it yourself, Ethan. No takebacks." He immediately started making a call to get the transfer agreement drawn up. Chloe frowned, a flicker of confusion in her eyes. "Ethan, $10,000 is $10,000. You shouldn't let your pride get in the way of that." But I was already grabbing a pen, signing my name on the agreement Julian's assistant had miraculously produced. He snatched it back, his smile so wide it looked painful. "Wow, Ethan, you're a real class act. First the tech, now the shares. I don't know how to thank you." My wife shook her head in disappointment. "This is why we grew apart, Ethan. Your idealism. Were you going to grow up?" I just looked at them both and said nothing. They didn't know I wasn't being generous or idealistic. I knew their company was about to go bankrupt when the new tech inevitably failed without my maintenance. To me, those shares were just worthless pieces of paper. I finally looked straight at Chloe. "We should get a divorce." For the first time, she didn't seem pleased. Her expression was complicated. I quickly figured out and let out a cynical laugh. "Don't worry, I don't want any of your assets. I'll leave with nothing." Her gaze flickered. "Ethan, that's not what I meant." She took a deep breath. Look, I think you're a good person. We just weren't meant to be. But just because we can't be husband and wife doesn't mean we can't be friends. I have some contacts. I could find you a few job listings. I gather my things and cut her off. Sorry, I said coldly. I'm not interested in being friends. The smile froze on Chloe's face. Ethan, you watch your tone. Julian stepped in front of her protectively, pointing a finger at my chest. You're a broke loser with nothing. Chloe and I have the technology and we're about to own this industry. With a single phone call, we could have you blacklisted everywhere. I looked at him completely oblivious to the mountain of debt he was about to be buried under and almost laughed. I gave him a thumbs up. Okay, I'll be waiting for that call. Leaving the office building, I stepped into the bright Texas sun. For 7 years, I'd spent most of my days in a windowless basement lab. I'd forgotten what sunlight felt like on my skin. I took a deep breath of fresh air and felt a profound sense of release. I pulled out my phone and sent a text to my old college friend. Leo, you know how you were always asking me to go into business with you? I hit send. I'm in. 2 seconds later, my phone rang. No way. You finally came to your senses. What about your wife? How are you going to explain it to her? I smiled. No explanation needed. We're getting a divorce. There was a long silence on the other end, then an explosion of disbelief. What? You two were the model couple of our entire circle. What happened? It's a long story. Let's meet up and talk. Just then, a man in a polo shirt from a car dealership walked up to the entrance of the building. Excuse me, he called out. I'm looking for the husband of Miss Chloe Reed. I responded instinctively. I am. The words were out of my mouth before I could stop them. I'd forgotten. We were about to be divorced, but the man was already walking toward me, a professional smile plastered on his face. Good afternoon, sir. Your wife, Ms. Reed, had just purchased a new vehicle for you. If you could just sign here to accept delivery. I looked toward the street. Parked at the curb was a brand new Porsche, gleaming and ostentatious, easily worth a couple $100,000. I was floored. Chloe and I had just had the ugliest fight of our lives. And now she was buying me a sports car. Confused, I signed a tablet he handed me. The second I did, his smile vanished. I'm sorry, sir, he said. His voice flat. Ms. Reed specified the recipient as a Mr. Julian Croft, not Ethan Vance. Suddenly, I was aware of all the eyes on me. The whispers started immediately. Wow. I thought that was some grand romantic gesture. Turns out he's just a clown. Huh? This guy Ethan has no shame. First, he tries to steal Julian's tech. Now he's trying to steal his car. Their words didn't bother me. I was leaving anyway. They could say what they wanted. Besides, when Nix's innovations went under, they'd all be unemployed. Let them have their fun now. But as I turned to leave, the dealership employee stepped in my way. Sir, I'm going to need an explanation for this. Otherwise, I'll have to take legal action. Just then, Julian and Chloe emerged from the building arm in arm. Seeing me at the center of the commotion, Julian rushed over, feigning concern. Hey, what's going on here? This is my friend. The employee's tone was icy. Mr. Croft, this man, Ethan Vance, was attempting to fraudulently claim your vehicle. We were about to call the police. Oh my God, Julian exclaimed, slapping his thigh dramatically. Ethan, I know you're upset that I'm driving a nice car, but you can't just go around claiming things that aren't yours. Chloe, still stinging for my rejection in the conference room, added with a smirk. Some people should take a good look in the mirror before signing for someone else's car and ask themselves if they're worthy. It hit me then. This was all Chloe's doing. A carefully staged public humiliation to get her revenge. Julian played his part perfectly, turning to her with wide-eyed surprise. Chloe, is this car for me? She beamed at him. You've been working so hard lately. You deserve a reward. Oh, I'm so touched. Thank you, Chloe. He gently pulled her into a hug. A deliberate performance for my benefit. The onlookers ate it up. So, they're the real couple. Yeah, the CEO and the CTO. It looks so good together. So sweet. And look at that clown Ethan. He looks like he's about to be sick. I felt nothing but a strange sense of detachment. A con man and a fool. What was there to be jealous of? It seemed my indifference wasn't a reaction Chloe had hoped for. She bit her lip, then decided to twist a knife. By the way, Ethan, thanks to that new technology you developed for the company, our productivity has already doubled since it went live this morning. We got investors lining up. Her voice dripped with condescension. We've already landed $3 million in seed funding. That's where the money for Julian's car came from. Julian chimed in, gloating, yeah, thanks for setting up all the code, man. All I had to do was click a button and I made the company $3 million. It's nice to get paid while you sleep. I just smiled calmly. Well, you two enjoy it because I knew they wouldn't be smiling for much longer. The next day, outside the courthouse, I held the signed divorce decree in my hand, feeling an indescribable sense of relief. Chloe trailed behind me, chewing on her lower lip. Ethan, she began, we're divorced. Don't you have anything you want to say to me? It was funny. I used to have a million things to say to her, but she'd always shut me down with a cold look. Can you stop being so clingy? We're married, but we need our own space. Now that I was silent, she was the one who couldn't stand it. I gave a cold smile. I wish you a bright future, Chloe. And a long and happy life with your CTO. Her face tightened. You have to be like that, Ethan. She snapped. She took a breath, adopting a preachy tone. Do you know why we broke up? Because after all these years, you're still a dreamer, an idealist. But the world is a real place, Ethan. I told you once the technology was developed, we should license it out and collect the royalties. We'd be making money in our sleep. But you refused. You said the tech was your baby, your life's work, and you would never sell it. She tilted her chin up, her expression smug and proud. Well, do you know how many companies have reached out to me in the last 24 hours, begging to buy the rights? We've cleared tens of millions in a single day. I stood there, a cold smile on my face. Money is important, I said cryptically. But you have to be alive to spend it. Her expression flickered. What's that supposed to mean? Before she could press, Julian pulled up in a shiny new Porsche. He hopped out, and right in front of me, wrapped an arm possessively around Chloe's waist. Don't listen to him, Chloe. It's just sour grapes. He's jealous that we're making so much money off the tech he built. He looked at me, his face a mask of pity. How does it feel? All those years of work, and now someone else is reaping the rewards. Mustang, huh? Chloe took a deep breath. It's for the best. We're divorced now. And I found a better option. As if her words were a cue. Julian pulled a ring box from his pocket and dropped to one knee. Chloe, I wasn't there for your past, but I want to be in charge of your future. I love you. Marry me. I noticed Chloe sneak a glance at me. When she saw my face was a blank mask of indifference. A flash of anger crossed her eyes before she gritted her teeth and said, yes, I accept. Julian, oblivious, triumphantly slid the ring onto her finger. Then, in an act of supreme arrogance, he pulled out his phone and held it out to me. Hey, Ethan, since you're here, how about you record this for us? Be a witness to our love. I recognized the pathetic provocation for what it was. I ignored him, turned my back, and walked away. From this day forward, Chloe Reed and Julian Croft were strangers to me. A day later, I met with Leo. We hammered out the details. Horizon Dynamics was officially born. That same day, Chloe and Julian posted an engagement announcement on Instagram. In the photo, she was in a pristine white dress leaning against Julian. Behind them stood a lavish multi-million-dollar mansion. They gazed into each other's eyes, full of hope for their bright future. The comments were flooded with congratulations. Only I knew their future held nothing but darkness. By the time I secured the first round of funding for my new company, Chloe was posting photos on LinkedIn with all the major players in the tech world. In a single day, she had sold dozens of licenses for the core technology in deals totaling over $1 billion. They became the industry's new power couple, its fastest rising stars. That night, I got a private message from her. It was a video of her swimming lazily in the infinity pool of her new mansion. The text below it read, "You only know how to build things, you never understood business. How many lifetimes would it take you to afford a house like this?" I just smiled, archived the message, and went back to work methodically implementing the fully debugged version of my technology. By the time I closed the first major deal for Horizon Dynamics, Chloe had stopped sending me taunting messages. A new story was trending on every tech blog. The production lines at Nexus Innovations and all its partner companies had suffered a catastrophic failure. The new technology had crashed completely. I was in a conference room about to sign a contract with a new client when my assistant rushed in. Looking flustered, he leaned in and whispered, "Mr. Vance, you have some visitors." I glanced at my client and lowered my voice. "Tell them to wait." This was a make-or-break meeting. The woman across the table was Isabel Voss, a legend in the venture capital world, known as the Queen of VC. I had prepared for weeks for this conversation. Nothing could go wrong. The next second, a commotion erupted outside the conference room. Ethan Vance, you get out here right now. Get out of my way. I need to see him. Isabel raised a perfectly sculpted eyebrow, a hint of amusement in her eyes. Sounds like you're a popular man today, Mr. Vance. I felt a flush of embarrassment creep up my neck. My apologies, Ms. Voss. Give me 5 minutes. I'll handle this. Before I could get up, the conference room door was kicked open. Chloe and Julian stood in the doorway, their faces contorted with rage. They stormed in, and Julian pointed a trembling finger at me. Ethan, what the hell is wrong with your damn technology? Why did it crash the production lines? Do you have any idea how much money we're losing? He shrieked, his face a mask of pure panic. Seeing their meltdown, I couldn't help the smirk that spread across my face. I'm sorry, I said, my voice dripping with mock politeness. Have we met? Chloe and Julian both froze. When she recovered, Chloe glared at me. Don't you dare play dumb with me, Ethan. We just finalized our divorce last week. Don't tell me you don't know who I am. I drew out my response. Oh, that's right. So, you do remember that we're divorced? I leaned back in my chair. In that case, I failed to see how your production problems have anything to do with me. They stood there like two sputtering fireworks, their faces red but utterly silent. From behind me, I heard a soft laugh. Isabel Voss was covering her mouth, but her eyes were sparkling with amusement. Julian's face cycled through shades of red and purple. Finally, he found a new angle of attack. Even if you're divorced, you're the one who developed the technology. Now that there's a problem, you're just going to wash your hands of it. Have some damn self-respect. Chloe's eyes lit up, seeing a glimmer of hope. I felt a look of complete surprise. Are you saying I designed this technology? Do you have any proof of that? They were both struck dumb again. I calmly pulled out my phone and played a video from the product keynote. On the screen, Julian stood proudly on stage, soaking in the applause as he claimed the revolutionary technology as his own. I shrugged. As everyone saw, Julian Croft was Theon who presented the technology. You two were the ones who reaped the benefits. Now that there's a problem, you suddenly want to claim it was my work. Don't you think that's a little ridiculous? Chloe, ever persistent, refused to give up. Even so, you were part of the development. You have an obligation to come back and help with the maintenance. Julian latched onto it like a lifeline. That's right. You have an obligation. If you refuse, the company has the right to hold you legally responsible. They were still so shameless. I looked at them with pity, then slowly pulled my signed resignation letter from my briefcase and placed it on the table. Hold me responsible. I raised an eyebrow. Did you forget? I'm no longer an employee of your company. Seeing the letter, Chloe's face went completely white. Julian staggered back a step as if he'd been physically struck. In the next instant, Chloe's demeanor changed. She lunged forward, snatched the letter off the table, and ripped it to shreds. When did I approve your resignation? She said, her voice strained. Ethan, stop this nonsense. Come back to the office with me and fix this. I had anticipated this. I smiled and held up my phone, showing her a crystal clear photo of the signed document. I have a digital copy. I can print out as many as you'd like. Feel free to rip them all. Chloe's face turned ashen. She opened her mouth to say something else, but her phone started ringing violently. Even without speakerphone, I could hear the furious shouting on the other end. Julian's phone was also blowing up. It hadn't stopped buzzing since they'd arrived. Angry investors all demanding answers about the production shutdown. C.O. Reed, you have to get back here. I heard Chloe's assistant sobbing through the phone. They've surrounded the building. They said if they don't see you soon, they're going to tear the place apart. With fires raging on all fronts, they had no choice but to retreat. They shot me one last hateful glare and stormed out. Just before she left, Chloe looked back at me, her eyes filled with a complicated mix of emotions, but she said nothing. The conference room was quiet again. I returned to my seat, feeling no joy in my victory, just a desire to finally end this chapter of my life. Suddenly, I heard applause. Bravo, Isabel said, her eyes dancing. I managed a sheepish smile. Sorry you had to see that, Miss Voss. Not at all, she said, winking. On the contrary, thank you for the free entertainment. She leaned forward slightly. So, is there a story there? I told her everything. By the time I finished, her friendly expression had hardened into a mask of cold fury. That is absolutely despicable, she said, her voice low. In business, your reputation is everything. People like them are cancer in this industry. She paused. Mr. Vance, I know an excellent attorney. I was touched by her immediate support. This was the kind of fierce integrity that had made her a legend. I thank her for the offer. The rest of our meeting was a resounding success. We quickly finalized the details of our partnership. But when the wire transfer came through later that day, I saw an extra $2 million in the account. I looked at her confused. Isabel just smiled warmly. I like your style. Consider it a bonus. Without another word, she stood up and strode out of the room on her high heels, leaving me speechless. It was a strange thought. A woman I had known for only a few hours could show me such kindness and respect, while the person I'd spent 7 years of my life with had stabbed me in the back without a second thought. With this new capital, everything would move much faster. Leo called me that night laughing. You're a ruthless bastard. You know that? Leaving a back door in the code for them. I'm going to have to treat you like a king from now on just in case you decide to pull something like that on me. I laughed back. Relax. It had nothing to do with me. The tech was simply unfinished. It needed constant maintenance. If she hadn't gotten so greedy and sold it to so many investors at once, the system might have held out for a few more days. Her own ambition was her downfall. Leo promised that with my tech and his business acumen, we would never make the same mistake. He swore we'd both be financially independent within 6 months. I thought the conflict with Chloe was over, at least for a while. But when I got home that night, I saw 2 shadowy figures lurking by my front door. They were bundled up in hoodies and hats, their faces obscured. I thought I was being robbed and was about to call 911 when they spotted me and rushed over. Wait, it's me. The familiar voice made me frown. Chloe, she pulled down the mask covering her face. I could see dark bruises on her cheek. Can we talk? She asked, her tone uncharacteristically soft. I hesitated for a moment, then unlocked the door. Get in. I figured it was better to have one last conversation and make it clear that we were done for good. Make it quick, I said, sitting down on the couch. I have a call soon. I didn't even offer them a glass of water. My coldness seemed to unnerve her. A strange expression flickered across her face. Ethan, she started, but the words died on her lips. Finally, Julian, unable to contain his rage, spoke up. Vance, you built the damn thing, so you know how to fix it, he said, his face a grim mask. Get back to the office and fix it. We'll give you 10% of the profits. He said the last part through gritted teeth as if every word was agony. I took a slow sip of water. Is that how you asked for a favor? Julian's jaw was clenched so tight I thought it might crack. Fine, 20%. That should be enough for you, right? For a man who worshipped money, offering up 20% was like pulling his own teeth. I couldn't help but laugh. 20%? Are you kidding me? Are you trying to insult me? That was the last straw for him. Ethan, just because we need your help, don't think for a second that makes you important. He roared. I leaned back on the sofa, making myself comfortable. You're wrong, Mr. Croft. I'm not important at all. You're the genius CTO. If you're so tough, why don't you go fix the production line yourself? Julian looked like a rooster being strangled. If could kill, I would have been dead 1,000 times over. But I was savoring the fact that they couldn't stand me, yet were completely powerless. I put on a frightened expression. Oh no, Mr. Croft is staring at me. I'm so scared. Even if I didn't know how to fix the system, I'm sure I couldn't possibly remember now. I'm going to kill you, Vance. Julian had never been so humiliated. He grabbed an empty bottle from the coffee table and raised it to throw at me. I was ready to dial 911. I had cameras installed throughout the house. If he laid a hand on me, he'd be doing time. To my surprise, Chloe shot up and stood between us, shielding me. Julian, have you lost your mind? Chloe, who had always doted on him, was yelling at him. For me, I couldn't believe it. Neither could Julian. He stared at her dumbfounded. You're yelling at me. For him. Chloe's eyes flickered, but her voice was cold. If you hadn't recklessly deployed the technology without proper testing, would we be in this mess? If you can't fix the production line, then shut up. Julian staggered back, his face ashen. If that's how you feel about me, he said, his voice trembling, then I'm leaving. Normally, this was Chloe's cue to panic and run after him. But this time, she stood her ground beside me, watching him with an icy expression. Julian gritted his teeth, his eyes red with fury, and stormed out. I could tell Chloe was fighting the urge to follow him. She sank back onto the sofa, looking utterly drained. I defended you, she said weakly. Are you happy now? I had a laugh. Did she really think I still cared about any of that? All I wanted was to see them pay for what they did. Seeing my silence, she took a deep breath. Ethan, if you help us get through this crisis, I'll give you 50% of the profits. I'll also give your shares back. She paused. And the IP for the technology, I'll transfer it back to your name, and you'll get royalties every year. It was a Hail Mary. To save her company, she was willing to sacrifice almost everything. It was a deal no sane person would refuse. But to me, it was just deeply ironic. Chloe, are you confused? I asked. The technology was always mine. Why should I need your charity to get back what you stole from me? Besides, I can make 100% of the profits at my own company. Why would I ever go back to working for you for half? Chloe's face went rigid, a deep sadness in her eyes. Ethan, do you have to make things so difficult? No matter what, we had 7 years together. Can you really just stand by and watch everything we built crumble? Seeing that pathetic look on her face, I happily pulled the freshly printed divorce decree from a drawer. Chloe, have you forgotten again? We are divorced. I sat on the table between us, and let's be clear, you're the one who made things difficult, not me. Just then, there was a knock at the door. I gave Chloe a polite, distant smile and went to open it. A young man in a sharp suit stood on my porch holding a briefcase. Mr. Vance, I'm Ben Carter, the attorney. Ms. Voss sent over. I'm here to discuss the details of your case. I nodded satisfied. Isabel's people were nothing if not efficient. From a sofa, Chloe's voice was strained. Ethan, who are you suing? I smiled, pulled a document from the lawyer's briefcase, and tossed it to her. Oh, good timing. I was going to let you know anyway. I'm suing you and Julian Croft for intellectual property theft. The case has been filed. The hearing is next month. You should be receiving your summons soon. Chloe looked as though she'd been struck by lightning. You're suing me? That's right. I said, is there a problem? I've been gathering evidence for a while now. The only reason I didn't file sooner was because I wanted to watch you and Julian fall from the top. The higher you climb, the harder the fall. For the first time, I didn't hide my contempt. Her face was white as a sheet. No, that's impossible. I deleted everything. There's no way you have any proof. I let out a cold laugh. Your mistake was never actually caring about me for the last 7 years. If you had, you might have known I keep a detailed journal. I gestured to a stack of notebooks on my bookshelf. You deleted the data on the servers, but every step of the process, every calculation, every breakthrough is documented right there in ink. Her eyes widened in horror. Those journals contained a complete, irrefutable record of the technology's creation, proving single-handed development. Ethan, let me explain. She scrambled towards me. I pushed her away with a look of disgust. If you think apologizing is going to get you out of this, you can save your breath. We are done. Let's try to maintain a shred of dignity. She left looking like a ghost. I felt nothing watching her go. All I wanted now was justice. That night, another story broke. The once celebrated Chloe Reed and Julian Croft had fallen from grace. With their production line still dead, a chain reaction had begun. Dozens of investors were suing them simultaneously. They were now facing a mountain of debt north of $00 million. The number was staggering. Leo called me immediately. Did you see the news? It's beautiful. They'll be paying that off for the rest of their lives, even if they sell their organs. I was silent. Chloe had been undone by one thing and one thing only, her own insatiable greed. The next day, I held a press conference. First, I announced to the cameras, I want to express my deepest sympathies to all the investors who are harmed by the actions of Chloe Reed and Julian Croft. Therefore, as a gesture of good faith, my company, Horizon Dynamics, would like to make an offer. Any partner of Nexus Innovations can sign a new contract with us. We will provide our fully updated and stable technology free of charge. We will only take a 30% share of the resulting profits. The announcement sent shock waves through the industry. For a mere 30% cut, these companies could salvage their multi-million-dollar production lines. It was a lifeline. Instantly, every investor Chloe had burned was lining up to partner with me. That afternoon, Leo was a blur, crisscrossing the city to negotiate contracts. He called me late that night, exhausted, but ecstatic. Ethan, you're a goddamn genius. That move was brilliant. Who the hell said you didn't understand business? You're a shark. Where did you learn to be so ruthless? I thought for a moment, then gave a dry laugh. I guess you could say I learned it from Chloe. She's the one who taught me that in the end, business is about winning, and when your competitor falls, you seize everything they leave behind. Leo was quiet for a long time. "You've changed, Ethan," he finally said. He was right. People have to change to survive. I stood up and walked to the floor-to-ceiling window in my new office, looking down at the glittering city lights. It was a beautiful view. I wondered who would be left standing at the top in the end. A month later, my intellectual property lawsuit against Chloe went to court. In the defendant's box, Chloe was a shadow of her former self. She had lost a shocking amount of weight, and her eyes were hollow. She was completely unresponsive, staring in his space as the lawyers and judge questioned her. Julian, on the other hand, was as loud as ever, hysterically trying to defend himself. But faced with a mountain of evidence in my journals, his shouts were just pathetic noise. In the end, I won back the rights to my technology. The court ordered Chloe to pay me $10 million in damages. Julian was ordered to pay $5 million. He screamed that he would appeal, but with the hundreds of millions he already owed, it was a drop in the ocean. As I walked out of the courthouse, the golden sunlight felt like it was washing away 7 years of grime. A beautiful figure was waiting for me on the steps. "Congratulations," Isabel VA said with a smile, her eyes sparkling. "You're the talk of the town." I was momentarily stunned by how lovely she looked. "You should smile more," I blurted out. "You have a beautiful smile." The words were out before I could think, and I immediately felt my face heat up. Isabel blushed slightly. "Is that the line you use on all the girls?" I scratched the back of my head, embarrassed. I had zero experience in this department. "Well, did it work on you?" She let out a laugh. "What do you think?" I smiled back. Just then, Chloe emerged from the courthouse. She saw us together, a spark of something unreadable in her eyes. Her lips parted as if to speak. But before she could utter a word, a police car pulled up to the curb. An officer stepped out. "Ms. Reed, you're under investigation for securities fraud. Please come with us to answer some questions." Julian, who had just come out behind her, tried to make a run for it. He was tackled by 2 plainclothes detectives and pinned to the pavement before he could even cry out. And I, standing beside Isabel, simply turned and walked with her into the warm glow of the setting sun, leaving the wreckage of my past behind.